Family Camp is a PG-rated, faith-based comedy that is currently in theaters. Though it's marketed as faith-based, the movie wasn't dogmatic or Bible thumpish or overly religious. You don't get many Bible verses or preachy hermeneutics. The heart of the story really is about family, faith, and friendship. This film was directed by Brian Cates and stars Leigh-Allyn Baker, Eddie James, and Thomas Woodard. Now, Mark Christopher Lawrence, the stand-up comedian, plays the pastor in this film, but he really gets about 3 speaking scenes. So the basic premise is Thomas is a workaholic who's up for a promotion. But it's been tearing his family apart because he's always gone, he's always working, he's always busy, he's always on his phone. And his one day in church, his wife suggests they attend the annual family camp that they've never gone to before. So this will be the first time, and I believe it's been going on for 3 years. So the 3rd annual family camp for a nice retreat to rekindle their marriage and to tighten their family unit and strengthen their faith. After a little tug of war, he agrees and they go. Since Thomas forgot to pay the balance after the deposit, the family doesn't get the better sleeping quarters on the campgrounds with the rest of the church or the rest of the attendees. They're forced to stay in a yurt with a seemingly perfect, caroling, 4-person family in which the dad is a harmonica whistling chiropractor named Eddie. Now, on the way to camp, on the road, Eddie almost runs Thomas and his family off the road on the way to the campsite. Now they're forced to live together for an entire camping retreat. The dads are at odds for most of the film, competing in camp games and taking it more seriously than the other families. Eventually, they go on this expedition with the other dads and get lost. So they get lost together and they're forced to survive in the wilderness alone. And it makes for a few dad jokes and slapstick humor. In the end, they realize that there's nothing more important than family and faith. Now, Thomas's kids had a little more to do than Eddie's kids. And these kids were at odds, but it wasn't really comedic. And Eddie's kids basically are just there with not much to do. Thomas's daughter meets a boy. He ends up being a jerk, and so it pulls her closer to her mom. This is relatively ignored by Thomas though. And his son doesn't like sports, even though his dad is trying to push him into sports. He doesn't like sports, but he's given a little action himself because he wanders off to the woods to find his dad once he and Eddie are lost. I think this movie put dad humor over everything else. Plot, character arc, everything. The jokes are mild, they're light, and very family friendly. So these are jokes that the entire family could get. They were not overt in any sense of the word. And even if it were approaching it, like when Thomas's daughter starts falling or has a crush on the boy, it's very PG. This film, again, is rated PG, and they kept it that way. I went on a Sunday, I went yesterday, and the theater was relatively packed, full of families, and they laughed aloud at the jokes. I snuck in a few chuckles, especially with the outtakes. Those were really cute, so they did get a few laughs out of me, but I'm always down for a good time, especially when I'm at the theater. There were a few plot points that were left dangling, just left out there, like Tommy's big promotion. He's so distracted during this trip by, what's happening at work that he could, lose this promotion to a colleague. He's so distracted by that, but there's no resolution to that. And they spend a decent amount of time on that plot point, but it's just left dangling. So we don't know if he ended up getting the promotion or if he lost it to his colleague. Also, like I said earlier, Eddie nearly ran over Thomas's family, like literally ran them off the road, and it is not addressed, especially since they're forced together in this yurt. They never bring it up. Also, there was I had a pet peeve with the scene that I think they should have cut. Right? His wife, it's very gentle, but it's noticeable. He strikes his wife in the face, like pushes her away with his arrow when she interrupts his archery game. He's competing against Thomas. He never apologizes. It's shrugged off. It's never mentioned again. I think that scene should have been cut, because if you're going to shoot a scene like that and leave that in a film, it should be addressed. Like, there should be some moral outcome to it, especially if this is a family comedy. I think that was irresponsible of the filmmakers to leave that in without addressing it. Now, they addressed something else in a way, like that he was, his family wasn't as perfect as the outside world thought it was, but this specific incident was not addressed again, and I had a problem with that. You can't just ignore scenes like this. There were some cool cinematic shots. I mean, this is shot on campground, so it was woody, and there were some cute shots. There are plenty of editing issues though. And the score was fantastical in a way to drive punchlines. So you noticed the score because it was there as a vehicle to move the punchline, to force the laugh, if that makes sense. So again, films like these faith-based films have a built-in audience. That's why promotional budgets are relatively non-existent. Maybe you haven't heard of this film before because there really was no promo. This is the type of film that maybe you take your vacation Bible school on a field trip to see. There's a core message. It's soup for the soul with this type of story. I wouldn't rate this film because this is not necessarily for general audiences, even though it's rated PG. I think the target audience or target demographic for this film are, families who are faith-based and are looking for a day or evening out to enjoy with the family. Is it family fun? Sure. Will a lot of people get the dad humor? Absolutely. But as far as a rating, I wouldn't rate this because there's a carve out for this demographic, for this movie, and they are the ones who would get this. Thank you so much. If you stuck around this long, I certainly appreciate you. Please consider liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing. And until next time, peace.